Valencia is Demon Shire's elite Royal Guard captain, and she was featured in the Demon Shire role as one of the antagonists that we had to fight. However, she wasn't particularly outstanding there, and she didn't leave a deep impression on me. But does that translate to her actual power level as a hero in Guardian Tales? Let us analyze in today's video on how worthy is elite Royal Guard captain Valencia potentially. Valencia is Demon Shire's best swordsman, who is admired by many for her valiant swordsmanship, charming look, and her becoming the Royal Guard captain at a very young age. She looks down on everyone except for the Count, which resulted in her showing conflict with many of the Count's assistants. And she lacks flexibility as well as common sense due to her solely focusing on swordsmanship, which makes her relatively disliked by many. She also swears to protect Cresselia, even though she's not much of a help despite being constantly on the move. And even though she has a serious demeanor in public light, she's a big fan of cute animal videos, and she will watch them on YouTube after a day of hard work. Due to time constraints reason, I won't be showcasing her stats ranking, as I wasn't able to record all the ranks as well as stats changes and then do an overall stats comparison, so I'll be skipping on that. However, if you look at her stats distribution itself, she has a decently high attack, at least within the top 20 range, second in terms of defense, as well as a decent HP in the middle of the pack. At the same time, her party buff is the new party buff crit hit multiplier plus 100%, which effectively boosts all your crit hit damage from 2 times damage to 3 times damage. And other than that, she also has a skill damage plus 6%, which is pretty mediocre, as well as a 1% HP recovery on enemy Q, which could be useful on PvE contents such as world exploration as well as defensive co-op. So Valencia's normal attack has 2 parts. The secondary ability is very similar to Carol's ability, where she uses a lightning sting, right, pokes the enemy and then deal damage to them. And her normal attack is pretty much a budget lapis, which forces her in a 4-directional attack manner, and you actually have to stop attacking before you can change the direction of her attack. So she's kind of inflexible and not super powerful on the right click aspect, because she doesn't have a movement speed boost and she doesn't have the flexibility to change direction while attacking. So she's gonna move very slowly if you're just gonna press her normal attack, and then she's gonna move slowly without the movement speed boost. Now her chain skill and special ability are pretty straightforward. Basically, her chain skill deals a 300% DPS as a melee AoE damage, and her special ability Duelist allows you to increase her attack by 40% and allies attack by 20% for 4 seconds on her lightning sting hit. So it's pretty straightforward, very easy to understand. Now moving towards her EX weapon, she's holding a one-handed sword, hence explaining her overall higher stats to make up for the lack of stats percentages from the one-handed sword weapon. And at the same time, if you take a look at the bonus additional stats that's added, right, she only adds a HP plus 12%, defense plus 12%, and a plus 8% attack increase on enemy kills for 10 seconds. So the last line, which is plus attack on enemy kill, is a very good sign that she's more towards the PvE end, because she will need to kill people in order to get the attack buff, which is very unlikely in most cases of Arena, as Arena is often a 1-to-1 trade and she won't get the most out of her attack buff from enemy kills. Now her EX weapon does have some special abilities, 3 in fact. Number 1, it allows her to always deal a crit hit on her 3rd attack for her normal attack, and it also increases her lightning sting damage by 100% DPS. So I think her EX weapon is a must for her. And lastly, when she's using her EX weapon skill, Mirage Rush, her Phantom will be able to rush once more, which allows you to increase the probability of chain on your enemy. However, this rush repeat, right, or this phantom re-rush is a bit slow. So in terms of the arena aspect, if the opponent's unit has a movement speed boost, they can easily get out from the phantom's second rush. So do take note of that. And her EX weapon, Mirage Rush, allows her to create phantoms and rushes towards the enemy to inflict damage. So the DPS numbers is 210%, pretty average, with a decently low regen time of 7 seconds, and the ability to have a second phantom rush back at the enemy. So effectively, if you're able to hit her full sets of weapon skill, you're probably able to chain your enemies within 2 weapon skills itself. Next up, let's take a look at the Colosseum side. So it's very obvious that she's not being used in that game mode, because number one, she's a melee unit. Melee units are in general not as good in that game mode. Number two, her kit is pretty mediocre in providing overall team buffs, right? She doesn't provide a heal, she doesn't provide an elemental resist down, and yes, her party buff might be a damage boosting one. She does have a potential to be good because her special ability does offer a little bit of attack buff, but her stat lines are okay, right, with a one-handed sword, and her third stat line ability only really works if you're able to kill an enemy. So that's why as a whole, she's not that attractive of a Colosseum unit compared to the other existing OP ones like Gabriel as well as Eleanor within the party. Now, in terms of the PvP aspects, I think she's relatively inflexible in terms of her lack of one stat line, right? The attack on Q stat line, like I mentioned earlier, isn't that good in arena or PvP settings in general, but you're able to see some use in 3v3s if you're able to keep your Valencia alive. So that's one thing going for her. But other than that, you can say that she's a bit mediocre because she doesn't have a very good chasing kit. Her normal attack has a relatively inflexible 4-directional targeting mechanic, which is same as Lapis, but she lacks the speed boost that Lapis have to chase after enemies that are constantly on the run. So that's why if your opponent is constantly on the run, like I'm showing you guys on screen right now, then you are probably gonna get chained because it's not that easy to actually hit your weapon skills due to, you know, enemies with movement speed being able to dodge the second rush very easily. Now, in terms of the matchups, she's also countered by Arena as showcased in her short story. So Arena being a very prominent unit means that using Valencia is gonna be very risky because you're gonna mesh into a lot of Arena and you'll be matched in a very disadvantageous position. However, she might have some impact in a 3v3 setting because her weapon skill has a relatively low cooldown, has the ability to go through multiple enemies and chain them, and she's also able to benefit more easily from her attack increase from Q buff. Now, in terms of the PvE side, I think that's where Valencia truly shines. She provides a decent buff to your light melee raid team with comprehensive coverage for the different units. So you have Lapis for your light attack or melee attack, right, depending on the EX weapon that you use. You have Carol with her light debuff as well as crit hit chance party buff to complement her crit hit multiplier. You have Gauri Lilith for the melee attack buff, right, as well as the defense buff if you choose to use Lilith with a light weapon. And you have Yuze with a weapon skill regen speed buff, as well as the ability to buff your whole team and provide much faster weapon skills. However, the overall damage of the melee teams is still lesser than that of the standard light range teams. So building up this team is really dependent on whether or not you like how melee works out and whether or not you really like the units in the team. However, her ability to buff the attacks of her teammate does offer some utility in various team setups, so she's pretty flexible with a universal party buff as well as the attack buffing shenanigans. Her HP recovery on Q as well as the attack increase on Q stat lines are also especially useful in game modes such as defensive co-op as well as role exploration, where you face multiple enemies and kill them quickly, so she's able to sustain and get a constant attack buff to keep her damage output going consistently. So below are some reasons to pull or invest in Elite Royal Guard Captain Valencia. And how worthy is Valencia potentially? Although Valencia is a unit that is pretty versatile in various game modes due to her kit, in all honesty, I think she's very skippable unless you intend to focus on the light element side in Guardian Tales, as her team buffing abilities are average as best because it's a 20% attack buff while not being a very strong one-on-one unit, so she's not a must-have for arena's sake. Although using her Phantom Rush weapon skill and placing it at the right angle, which can result in some outplay situations, could be very satisfying, but I won't recommend you to pull for her if you're a beginner because she's not the most meta unit out there and she has a relatively inflexible attack style, making her a little bit stat dependent as well as a little bit hard to use for beginners. So yep, that's pretty much it for this video. Do let me know down in the comment section below whether or not you'll pull for her when she's released on the global server. And do remember to like and subscribe in order to see more contents from this channel. I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.